Yeah, it's nice being. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and nice to meet you in person. Welcome. Sally.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us at Sandy Hook, which was a Penn Most participant in our 2023 10 Most announcement. My name is Kelly Raffel. I'm the new Executive Director for Preservation New Jersey. This is my first time at a 10 Most event, just like it's your first time at a 10 Most event. So yay for that. Cultural resources face several challenges each year, right? Neglect, deferred maintenance, our ever-changing climate, redevelopment, and it's PNJ's role to raise awareness and advocate these key issues, for these key issues. And preservation is, important for a variety of reasons, from economic development drivers, sustainability, and for understanding our past and cultural heritage. So we really appreciate and thank everyone who is with us and has come out today and sharing your stories of preservation, the need for preservation in your communities. And we hope that this program will be a benchmark in all of your future successes with your sites. So I'm going to I have a few remarks by our president who cannot be here with us, Paul Muir. And he apologizes that he cannot be present today due to an existing family commitment, but he's very enthusiastic for today and every day for Preservation New Jersey as we lead our efforts to bring to light the plight of historic structures that represent significant history throughout New Jersey. This year's list represents the stories, the shared experiences, and now the hope of each community. So historic preservation goes beyond brick and mortar. That goes to the heart of the community. I stand with those working to preserve this year's list and look forward to continuing our advocacy with you. So that is from our president. Again, well wishes to everyone, and he's very apologetic for not being here today. So we're going to move through our program, and I'm going to turn it over to one of our board members, Melissa Zebrio, who's going to talk about the 10 Most and introduce our next guest. Thank you.
Tremendously hard over the past several months to prepare this program, and we really appreciate your hard work on this and on everything you do. So thank you, Kelly. So again, I'm Melissa. I'm the specialist professor of public history at Monmouth University in nearby West Long Branch. a board member for Preservation New Jersey, and coincidentally also for the Sandy Hook Foundation. So I'm especially delighted that we have a little mix going on here today between the Sandy Hook Foundation and Preservation New Jersey. So a little bit about our 10 Most program. As you can see in your programs, the 10 Most Endangered Historic Places program spotlights irreplaceable historic, architectural, cultural, and archaeological resources in New Jersey that are in imminent danger of being lost. The act of listing these resources acknowledges their importance to the heritage of New Jersey and draws attention to the predicaments that endanger their survival and the survival of historic resources statewide. The list, which is generated by nominations from the public, aims to attract new perspectives and ideas to sites in desperate need of creative solutions. You know, my students, and not just students, people I meet generally, are often shocked. Like, historic sites aren't just protected. Like, once they're deemed historic, there's not some like federal entity that just magically protects them and funds them. No, you know, unfortunately, that is not the case. There is so much work that needs to be done by grassroots organizations like those you are all involved in. So any small way that we at Preservation New Jersey can help support you, we are more than happy to do that. So there's a lot of suspense around the announcements, but before we get to that, let me just thank our sponsors. Of course, the National Park Service. We are here today in the gorgeous Gateway National Recreation Area. So round of applause. And of course, as I mentioned, the Sandy Hook Foundation. They are the official. They are the stewards of this beautiful and historic building that we are in today. Spermaceti Cove #2 Life Saving Station, also known as the Fort Hancock U.S. Life Saving Station, which dates to 1894 and was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1981. So please visit their merch table and also visit their website, which is sandyhooknj.org. So thank you again to the Sandy Hook Foundation. Our other sponsors are the Monmouth University Department of History and Anthropology, which has a robust public history program where we educate our students and partner with organizations throughout the state whenever we can. You can learn more about them at monmouth.edu and Passaic County. So thank you. One last round of applause for our sponsors. And speaking of our sponsors, it is my pleasure to introduce Pete McCarthy, who is the Sandy Hook Unit Coordinator. Thank you, Pete.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, come on, a little more. On behalf of the National Park Service, I'd like to welcome you all here to the Sandy Hook unit at Gateway National Recreation Area. Sandy Hook is 1/3 of a 26,000 acre park, which encompasses basically the mouth of New York Harbor. Sandy Hook being 2,000 acres is the New Jersey section of it, and in my mind, the best part of it. However, I did work in the New York units for a good amount of years, and they have a lot of valuable resources there. I want to talk a little bit about Sandy Hook this morning. Melissa talked about the 1981 nomination for the Historic Register, which includes a landmark district up in the main post of Fort Hancock, what we refer to as Officers Row, and the ancillary buildings there. This building is part of that Historic Register. Probably the most significant piece of all of the pieces here at Sandy Hook is the 1764 Sandy Hook Light, which is the oldest operating lighthouse in the United States. If you get an opportunity after the program, take a ride up to the lighthouse. The visitor center is open. as well as History House, which is out on Officers Road. They're both great places to get a look at. And the Sandy Hook Museum will also be open this afternoon. And that's in the fort itself, or the main parts of the fort. We have 190 structures out here on Sandy Hook that we're responsible for taking care of. So we kind of understand the preservation aspect. If you come to a national recreation area or you come to a national park, we have a number of missions which we have to meet, and sometimes they're in conflict, but we do the best we can in order to prioritize what needs to be done. So here at Sandy Hook, beyond the beautiful beaches that Pete loves to talk about, we have outstanding natural resources here that range from the holly forest, which is probably the best example of the maritime holly forest in the Northeast, to the buildings which I talked about, the 7 miles of beaches, which about 4 are recreational beaches. We get 2 million people here a year, or 2.2 million people here a year. And the majority are between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Folks come in and they come in and out of here. This is their national park. If you go, every segment of the population of New Jersey is represented here on a daily basis. We are truly the people of New Jersey's national park, and it's something that we take pride in. I hope you enjoy the program here. I hope you guys are able to take away something out of this. And I'm going to turn this over to our partner here, Mr. Rizzo, who would like to welcome you on behalf of the Sandy Hook Foundation.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. And welcome everybody. My name is Pete Izzo. I'm the president of the Sandy Hook Foundation. We're just honored to be able to offer this spot to host today. This historic location is, I think, a fantastic place to be able to sort of present the 10 most today. And so we're just very honored to be able to do that. Melissa touched on this a little bit, but I just want to take one more moment with it. Preservation is a purposeful act. It doesn't happen on its own. And so I just want to thank all of you for the work that you do. I want to first of all thank Preservation New Jersey for the work that they do, which is wonderful. And I want to thank all of you for the work that you do with your respective sites to try to raise the money and do the work to preserve those places, to preserve the history, so that we can do kind of a little bit of what we're doing today, standing within a beautiful historic structure that ended up getting repurposed into something new, so we can appreciate the history and we can think about what it meant and where we came from, and of course where we're going. That's kind of what a lot of this is about. So thank you. We're so honored to be a part of this. Thank you both for everything, for allowing us to be a part of it, and welcome. We're looking forward to hearing the list. So I'll turn it back to one of the two of you.
So P&J is a partnership, and they're not only our partners from the Sandy Hook Foundation and the National Park Service, but even amongst our organization, we have incredible professionals and enthusiastic people who are, live, breathe, eat reservations. So our board members are going to share in calling out the nominations. So I'm going to call our Vice President, Billy Newman, up first to give the first 3 sides.
I hope you don't mind if I read.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that you understand the history of this important building. This is the Samuel P. Hall House and Native American encampment in Hallsborough, in Gloucester County. This was built by the fishery owner Samuel P. Paul in 1810. The Paul House is a 2.5-story, 3-base stone structure with ornate federal woodwork. Beautiful building. Features 9/9 first floor windows, flanking a central entrance entablature with reeded pilasters. Hope everybody knows what reeded pilasters are. I think we almost have them here.
Excuse me. There's a shadow.
Oh, yes, I know. I was saying to myself, I didn't want to stand here. Yes, thank you. That's good. I'm glad you brought me to that.
He's learning.
Right. And this also has a fan light and 6/9 second floor windows, 6/6 segmentally arched head dormers. Them up there. The brick end chimneys accommodate the parlor fireplaces. These are tooled with fine punch and gouge mantelpieces. This is the mantel itself. A smaller shed roof rear kitchen wing appears to date to the Georgian period, and this was about 1795, so a little bit earlier than what we're looking at as far as the building. It's based on simpler molding profiles and butt joint in the masonry. The Paul family, from which Paulsboro derives its name, owned the house until 1924. They're in there for over 100 years. The significance of the property is due to the association, obviously, with Samuel Philip Paul, and the intact nature of the federal architecture. The elements, the architectural investigations that were conducted during 2012 discovered an undisturbed Native American encampment right on the grounds. Undisturbed, pretty sweet, huh? The site is currently owned by the borough of Paulsboro, with the goal to preserve the site to become public space as a house museum and as a public park. Obviously, the grounds are important. The Paulsboro Historic Preservation Commission was formed and is actively working to have both Samuel P. Paul House and the Native American encampment listed on National Register. Despite years of planning initiatives, the Samuel P. Paul House and its surrounding face several threats. Why we're here to understand the threats that happen to our historic properties. The building has seen a significant trend of deterioration due to lack of maintenance and funding secured to restore it. In addition, the municipality began discussions on the redevelopment of the site and began to move forward with the creation of a community-wide recycling center. Yeah, I expected that. Right? Yeah. Along the Mantua Creek and a lot immediately adjacent. Not only do they want the one lot, but they're going to take like a whole area. That's both impact the house and archaeologically sensitive areas. Preservation New Jersey supports the mission and goal of the Paulsboro Historic Preservation Commission and strongly encourages special municipal recognition of the site. That's really where we do real preservation, at the municipal level. The local level is so important. So you have to go out and advocate to your borough, whatever town, village, support it. The recognition of the site and also for the preservation of the open space. So we are so glad to have them recognized because the threat is real. Thank you. That's right. Hi there. Love the world. Again, I will read. And we have the Washington Theater here. What a beautiful, cute building, wonderful building. How many people have theaters in their communities that are active, or maybe some active, or maybe, well, this is the Washington Theater. In Washington, in Warren County. We are all over New Jersey. We're looking at everything, and we're so glad that we have, a good amount of diverse locations here today. Thank you for coming. The Washington Theater opened in 1926. A lot of theaters around in the 20s. It was built for both silent movies and vaudeville. The theater seated 800 and was proclaimed the showplace of Northwestern New Jersey. It was equipped with a Robert Morton organ, and 4 years after opening, it was modernized to add sound. Opened originally by the Lions Theater Circuit, the Washington Theater has had many owners over the years. By the 1970s, much of its ornate style was covered over or destroyed. Several local community groups have attempted to save and reopen the theater. For example, in 1998, the Washington Theater was acquired by Galaxy Theaters and extensive renovations were done to restore the lobby area and back to its grandeur and cleanup of the auditorium. However, there's always a however. However, the Washington Theater closed again in 2001 and saw several openings and closures up until 2016. In June 2022, the site was proposed for, guess what? Oh, you've read, you guys can do this, right? It's a mixed-use space and a 4-story addition for apartments. Sounds so familiar to me. Yeah, okay. Preservation New Jersey does support those advocating for the restoration of the site and adaptively reuse or as needed sensitive redevelopment of the theater that allows for its continued preservation and operation as a cultural destination. Go visit it. Who's here from Washington Theater? Thank you for because that's really what we want to do. When you hear these stories, you should understand this could happen in your community. These are the kind of things that we have to be aware of and try and advocate for. I know you all are great advocates, but you know, this is just another educational policy. Me again. I'll be sweeping up afterwards. So. The Eagle Tavern in Trenton, Mercer County. The 18th century, this 18th century building signifies the growth of Trenton into a commercial and industrial city from the mid 1760s through the early 19th century. It was a hub for social, commercial, and industrial investments. Originally built as a private home, it was enlarged for use as a tavern in the early 19th century and was frequented by patrons of the nearby Eagle Raceway. At that time, it served as the political center of this the city's South Board and was a meeting place for the Masons. In 1890, the tavern closed and became a rooming house until 1950. Later, it was purchased by the city and leased to the Trenton Historic Society. Thank you for that. The society tried and failed 3 times to operate the tavern as a restaurant. At the time of its listing, the city had boarded up the building and was using federal urban initiative funds to conduct a feasibility study to find a new viable use. Building underwent an exterior restoration. Interesting. And by the city in 2005. The building envelope, roof, and windows were all restored, and a handicap ramp was installed. The interior was restored in 1980, but it was proven to need a lot of work. As of 2022, the city of Trenton announced and advertised for redeveloping and restoring the building with a long-term commercial or retail use. The Eagle Tavern was listed on the 10 most in 1995. Preservation New Jersey revisits the Eagle Tavern to lend its continued support to the city of Trenton and its advocates. Who are the advocates here for this building? We have people here? Okay. Okay, I will go on. As we approach the celebrations of America's 250th, we strongly encourage sites to be visitor ready and having various agencies actively explore and preserve New Jersey's role in America's history. This can be through the development of programs and community projects, creation of interpretive resources and exhibits, and the preservation of historic sites that contribute to the story of our nation. Thank you.
If you will read, I'm gonna break up the program a little bit and I'm going to announce our next 10 most. And I definitely feel a little warm and fuzzy about this because my family is in emergency services. My 3 brothers and father are firemen in our community, so I completely understand the need for this. So Sayreville's first firehouse administration building was built in 1909. It's a 2-story brick utilitarian building. The site was used as a fire station and by the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary and other similar entities until 2018, when a broken pipe caused the shutdown of the building. The damage was not repaired, and for financial reasons, the building was left vacant and sealed to avoid further damage. The old firehouse in Sayreville continues the trend of losses in early constructed emergency service buildings. The 20th century saw rapid evolution in emergency services, but as emergency services have evolved, so has the equipment. Today's fire engine, the ladder trucks, and ambulances are much larger than their predecessors. And the result is historic firehouses cannot fit modern emergency equipment. Communities often respond by relocating stations or demolishing historic stations and constructing new ones. So this has created a preservation crisis of these significant buildings within our communities. So firehouses encompass generally the important history of emergency services in New Jersey and represent the civic commitment of their communities to protect and serve in times of need. So rarely does an entire typology of structure come under that threat, but due to rapid technological and policy changes, these iconic foundational community structures are under immediate threat throughout the state. So we know that these structures can be adaptively used for several functioning and interesting purposes, such as libraries, offices, we've seen them as restaurants, sometimes bars, people even adapt them into homes. So Preservation New Jersey supports the Sayreville Historic Society and calls upon the municipality and other communities to think creatively and proactively to seek out new uses and or owners for these structures rather than abandon and demolish. So this is the Sayreville. So moving with our list, I'm going to call upon board member Ricky Masson, who will give us our next readings.
How are you doing? Good morning, everybody. My name is Ricky Masson. I'm the chair of the Montgomery Township Landmarks Preservation Commission. I'm a commission member for Somerset County Cultural and Heritage. I've never been to this beach, and this is really exciting to be here. So I want to say thanks to Pete, and everybody else that sponsored us. Thank you. I'm getting right into my three. So Billy, don't feel bad. I got three too. All right, I will not block the screen not for 1 second. Got the George B. Hecker Carriage House in West Orange, Essex County. Okay, this carriage house building is an excellent example of stick-style Victorian architecture, designed by master architect Henry Hudson Holly. Holly also designed two other notable buildings in West Orange, Thomas Edison's home, Glenmont, located in Llewellyn Park, as well as Edison's laboratory on Main Street. In the 19th century, West Orange was an escape for wealthy New Yorkers, including George B. Hecker, a flour miller who built a mansion which is now demolished with a carriage house on the ridge of Watchung Mountain. Unlike most of the carriage houses of this era, Hecker's has never been adapted for another use. So the original features such as a hayloft and horse stalls are still intact. The carriage house was designated a local landmark by the Township of West Orange and has been deemed eligible for National Register listing. The Hecker Carriage House is one of only two buildings that remain from West Orange's 19th century prominence and the historic Ridge neighborhood. The carriage house today sits on 12 acres of forested land open to redevelopment. The primary threat to the site is the lack of plans to preserve and adaptively reuse the carriage house for the public's benefit. Preservation New Jersey supports those in advocating for the restoration of the site and its adaptive reuse. It is critical that all stakeholders work together to make this unique local historic landmark a priority in its plans for the future. There it is. Okay. Like Kelly was saying, one's near and dear to her. This one, I work in Hunterdon County, and I've got the Reddington Township Taylor's Mill in Hunterdon County. Put your hands up, folks from Reddington. Thank you very much for your help. I work over there. Paul, our board president, is also from Hunterdon, but I'm in Somerset myself. Taylor's Mill, there it is a stone grist mill built circa 1760 by Colonel John Taylor. John Taylor, who served in the Revolution as a member of the 4th Hunterdon Militia and eventually achieved the rank of general, was an Englishman by birth, owned and ran the mill. The mill is located at the southwest corner of Taylor's Mill Road and Rockaway Road on the Reddington-Tewksbury border and is one of the last surviving pre-revolutionary mills. This mill played an important role in the Revolution as a grain supplier for Washington's army. And it remains significant for its importance to local history, for studying early patterns of industry and commerce, for studying the architecture of early mills, and for understanding the importance of local business in support of the military effort during the Revolutionary War. Although the site was acquired nearly 30 years ago, structures have been lost over time through demolition by neglect. The current ruins are threatened by years of deferred maintenance, which was brought to the forefront of public concern when, during a snowstorm in early 2022, a portion of the Taylor's Mill ruin was damaged by a vehicle accident. With the continued lack of funding and support for the site, the future of the Taylor Mill ruins remains unknown. And with the onset of America's semi-quincentennial celebrations, I wasn't going to say 250 because I could say semi-quincentennial. Preservation New Jersey supports and strongly encourages municipalities, counties, Hunterdon County, okay, and statewide bodies to engage in exploring and preserving New Jersey's role in America's history. And this can be through the development of programs and community projects, creation of interpretive resources and exhibits, and the preservation of historic sites that contribute to the story of our nation. So Taylor's Mill, you're on our list. And the third one that we have is the Raritan River Railroad Freight Station in Middlesex County. Mark is from Middlesex County, so I'll point him out while I say this. Okay. The Raritan River Railroad Freight Station is a one-story utilitarian wood frame structure, typical of station construction in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Raritan River Railroad, RRR, was incorporated in 1888 and had 12 miles of tracks and stations stretching across South Amboy, South River, Milltown, and New Brunswick. After passenger service ended in Milltown in 1938, changes were made along the line to handle freight trains. By 1980, the failing Raritan River Railroad was absorbed by Conrail. Conrail did not use this freight station, so it was scheduled for demolition. You got it. Thank you, audience. The owner of the property adjacent to the station saved it from the wrecking ball when he purchased the building for use as a storage facility. Over the years, the building fell into disrepair. The station still sits on Washington Avenue, boarded and locked up. Since 2011, the Milltown Historical Society and the Raritan River Railroad Historical Society have rekindled the efforts to move and restore the borough's only train station and the last existing Raritan River Railroad station. Preservation New Jersey applauds and supports the societies in their efforts to continue to seek grants, raise funds for preserving the resource. It is critical that all the stakeholders work together to identify, develop, and implement strategies for the continued preservation and reuse of this unique local historic landmark for the public's benefit. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back, and it is my honor to announce that our list includes the Joseph Murray Farmhouse and Barn in Middletown County, Monmouth County. Our representatives from the Joseph Murray Farmhouse, there we go, thank you. The Murray Farmhouse and Barn at Horsey Park, Middletown, are examples of 18th century homesteading. Built around 1770 by Joseph Murray, a stonemason from Ireland, the farmhouse and barn remain on original foundations. Joseph Murray was a Revolutionary War veteran known for commandeering supplies and materials and associated with spying on British troops along Sandy Hook. One of Murray's stunts was stealing horses for the militia's use. The property stayed in possession of the Murray family until 1861. The homestead was nearly torn down in the 1970s to make way for a sewage plant before concerned locals fought to preserve it. The site was purchased in 1973 by Middletown Township, and the Borsi Park Citizens Committee was formed to save the land from any future development. The site was restored in 1986 to allow visitors and residents to walk in Murray's footsteps and honor his service during the American Revolution. The Borsi Park Conservancy, for financial reasons, turned control of the park and the farmhouse and barn over to Middletown Township. Through a continued partnership, the town and the Conservancy have applied for grants and funding to make necessary repairs to the Murray House, but grants have continuously been denied. While some funding has been secured through capital budgeting, there is not enough set aside to see the restoration project through. Debates have ensued on the understanding of state requirements, questions regarding need for repairs, and finding proper contractors to complete the project. With the onset of America's 250th celebrations, Preservation New Jersey supports and strongly encourages municipalities, counties, and statewide bodies to engage in exploring and preserving New Jersey's role in America's history. This can be through the development of programs and community projects, creation of interpretive resources and exhibits, and the preservation of historic sites that contribute to the story of our nation, like the Joseph Murray Farmhouse and Barn. So we wish them much success. Okay, next, I have the honor of announcing Grace Episcopal Church in Plainfield, Union County. Representatives, okay, thank you for being with us.
Do you want me to speak right?
We're gonna do that a little later.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. So Grace Episcopal Church was founded in 1852, and the current building was constructed in 1892 by British American architect Robert Gibson. Grace Church is a well-preserved example of Gothic revival ecclesiastical architecture. Its most significant feature is the square tower with crenellated parapet and conical side tower, and features a 47-bell carillon. I'm not sure all my pronunciation is right here, but you'll forgive me if not. I do know how to say stained glass windows from Tiffany. Ian Butler and Kane and Conic Studios are featured. Later additions include the Parish House dating to 1905, the chancel extensions dating to 1930, and the parish hall dating to 1957. Each of the firms hired to work on this building was representative of the best in their field. Facing decades of diminished attendance, decreased income, potentially dangerous building conditions, and the inability to afford critical repairs to the 130-year-old church building, the Episcopal Church of Plainfield decided in 2020, which was of course during the pandemic, to sell the building and find another worship space to continue their services to the community. During this transition, Grace Church was the subject of discussions of demolition and redevelopment of the property. In the fall of 2022, the municipality's planning board voted to move forward with preparing plans to redevelop. The current zoning for Grace Church permits mixed-use structures, including uses such as apartments, townhouses, childcare, retail, office space, restaurant, tavern, bank, etc., etc. Preservation New Jersey supports those advocating for the site to look into ways to adaptively reuse or, if needed, pursue sensitive redevelopment of Grace Church that allows for preservation of this much beloved structure. We wish them all the best. And last for me is the community of St. John Baptist Convent and Retreat House in Mendham, Morris County. Representatives, if you can see your hands, thank you. The community of St. John Baptist is significant for its French Norman Chateau Revival style convent and its association with the event of the establishment of an important religious order of self-sacrifice and public service. The convent and retreat house on site welcomes over 2,000 people per year and has been a community charitable resource and nature preserve in Mendham since 1900. The convent was designed by Burr Friedley and William Cordingley in 1916 to resemble a French Normandy monastic structure. It also included arts and crafts elements and sensibilities, formal gardens, and a cemetery. The community has actively preserved the site since 2005 by seeking grants and support from the Morris County Historic Preservation Trust and the New Jersey Historic Trust funding programs. Unfortunately, in 2018, the New Jersey Supreme Court ruled to prohibit Morris County's Historic Preservation Trust Fund program from funding historic buildings owned by religious organizations. The ruling has had a cascading impact on historic preservation programs statewide, putting many valued architectural resources and historic landmarks at risk. As such, the community has lost 50% of the bricks and mortar funding that has been vital for the upkeep and preservation of the site. Preservation New Jersey continues to support the efforts to continue to fight for a valued and worthy historic preservation grant program criteria that benefits all New Jersey residents.
Here.
Thank you, and thank you for our board members for helping to announce the 10 no's. So now this part of our program where we have, moments and remarks by our advocates. So I know I have a few listed here, but I think there are more people, so you can come up and say things as well. So we're going to start with the old firehouse. I believe Heather had mentioned. Yep. So come on up.
Do I stay here? I'll stay. I'll stay here.
Hi.
Very informal.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first I would like to thank Preservation New Jersey for all of their hard work and advocacy they provide on behalf of preserving our state's important and essential history. I stand before you to advocate for the recognition of a building in our beloved borough of Sayreville as a historic landmark. This building, which holds great significance to our community, has witnessed the growth and development of our borough over the years. Allow me to share with you some of the compelling history that makes this building deserving of such recognition. Back in 1876, when the Township of Sayreville was established, our governing body faced the challenge of finding suitable venues for meetings. They resorted to conducting their affairs in local hotels, taverns, businesses, and even private homes. As our township grew, it became evident that we needed a dedicated space to serve the needs of our community. However, it wasn't until April of 1909 that the Township Committee decided to build a proper township hall. Upon reviewing records, they discovered that Sayreville residents already voted to purchase land and construct a municipal building back in 1900. E.A. Fisher, a generous member of the community, offered a 50 by 100 lot for construction of the Township Hall. To ensure the architectural integrity of the structure, the committee enlisted the services of G.K. Parcell from New Brunswick as the architect. However, construction faced airfare difficulties and the work came to a halt in 1910 when the initial nation encountered financial issues. Sayer and Fisher, a local business, stepped in and provided bricks and supplies at cost. Thankfully, new contractors were selected and the construction resumed. Over the years, the building served multiple functions. It was the venue for municipal meetings, housed government offices, served as a police station, a jail, and even a firehouse. In 1913, due to overcrowding in school number 2, the meeting room was temporarily repurposed as a classroom. A fire escape was installed to ensure safety. In 1941, the Borough Council decided to construct a new municipal building. The Old Town Hall's role began to transition, and on October 21st, 1942, the council moved to the new location, marking the end of an era. At this point, Sayreville Engineering Company 1 took over as its sole occupants of the building until they moved to MacArthur site in 1971. The building in turn continued to serve the community in various ways. It became a meeting place for organizations such as the Civil Air Patrol. further solidifying its importance. Today, we look back on the rich history encapsulated within those walls. We recognize the significance and impact this building has had on our community. We almost lost this landmark back in the summer of 2019, when there was a possible threat of demolishing the building to make way for an additional parking lot. Upon inspection, back in March of this year, the building was found to be structurally sound by CME Associates, an engineering consulting firm located right in Sayreville. This building is a symbol of our borough's growth, progress, and resilience. Preserving it as a historic landmark will not only honor the past, but also provide future generations with a tangible connection to their heritage, and ensure that its legacy continues to inspire and educate further generations. I implore you all to join me in supporting the designation of this building as a historic landmark. Together, we hope to safeguard the stories, memories, and spirit of Sayreville and the roots that created our borough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we have Barbara from Grace Episcopal.
I think you guys covered a lot of what I was gonna say, but I guess I'll repeat. Hi, everybody. My name is Barbara David, and thank you for nominating Grace. I'm proud and more than pleased that my nomination of Grace Episcopal Church in Plainfield has been selected as one of New Jersey's most endangered places for 2023. Grace has a rich history, not only in its ministry, but in its architecture. I've been a member of Grace Church all my life, as well as my parents and my grandparents before me. So you can understand why it holds a really good place in my heart. The very last time I was in the church was for my uncle's funeral in early March of 2020. A week later, everything went into lockdown because of COVID, including the church. As things started to open up, I was baffled as to why Grace was still closed. And I later found out that Grace is up for sale and that a developer had put in a bid for purchase. And the intent is to, guess what? Demolish the building and replace it with high-rise apartments. I also learned that the Tiffany stained glass windows that were constructed in 1892 and donated to Grace by the Tweedy family and Dexter Tiffany, who was a cousin of Louis Comfort Tiffany, were sold to a museum in Texas for $300,000, a price much less than the actual value of those windows. The Grace Vestry and the Episcopalian Diocese in Trenton sold those unique stained glass windows without the required application or consent of the Plainfield Historic Commission. Grace Church was designed by the renowned architect Robert W. Gibson, who has designed many beautiful and landmark buildings in New York City. Grace is a stone Gothic revival structure. In design and workmanship, Grace reflects 18th century ecclesiastical architecture. The building is a two-story cruciform plan, Gothic revival style characterized by the use of asymmetry, pointed arch windows, and arches. Gothic style door carvings and decorative sandstone trim around the door and opening of the, oh, you don't have the picture up there. That's all right, that's fine. The cornerstone of the church was laid on May 5th, 1891. The pulpit is made of white oak. The 37 rank pipe organ was installed in 1927 by the Schwartz Organ Company. And the carillon of 2 octaves was first dedicated in March of 1923, manufactured by Gillett and Johnson. Later, the carillon was doubled in size by a donation given by members of the church, Walter and Bertram Pittis, in 1976. Under the leadership of Mother Carolyn Eklund, the church's minister, a New Jersey Trust grant was awarded in 2000, and another one was awarded in 2012. The Tiffany windows and other stained glass windows and the bell tower, so we're talking about this round stained glass window and the bell tower above, were all restored with that grant. Mother Eklund had also put the church on the New Jersey State Historic Registry and the Federal Historic Registry in 2002. Now, I could go on and on about the history and the beauty of the building, but I think you guys get the idea. I've requested to the mayor of Plainfield and the Plainfield City Council to consider speaking with Sacred Places, which is an organization that helps find a repurpose for historic churches, but to no avail. I'm hoping that the building that was once Grace Episcopal Church will be saved from demolition and that a new and everlasting purpose will be found for this beautiful and historic building.
Thank you. We have remarks now by Marco for the Washington Theater. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go back. All right.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Preservation New Jersey for nominating the Washington Theater along with all the other applicants. It was nice speaking with some of you earlier. And a nice drive out here to Sandy Hook. I got involved with the Washington Theater because I live in Washington all my life, and I grew up going there as a kid and a teenager without social media, and this was our meeting place. Seemed like every small town in America, not just New Jersey, had their own little theater back in the day. This one's from 1926. When I was going there, you know, it's just a twin theater. It was a very unique place for me. I never really knew about the entire history of it. It's actually was created built in 1926 by the builder was James Lyons out of Morristown. And halfway under completion, he had ran the Bonton Theater, he designed two other theaters, one in Madison, which was recently raised, unbeknownst to the town, and one in another place in New Jersey, but three, all similar to this one. But this one in particular has a pretty deep history. During the construction, there was a couple, John Taylor Howell and his wife Clara Bowlby out of Dover. They ran the Bonton. They came down here and saw this building being built halfway under construction and brokered a deal with Mr. Lyons to buy it from him. And they completed the construction, and with the help of the Ford Furniture Store downtown, Mrs. Bowlby, Clara actually furnished the entire inside, and it opened up on a cold Monday night on January 24th, 1927, with a line of about 1,000 people outside and a broken window around here at some point in time, the way it looked back then. 4 acts of vaudeville, silent film, The Music Master. And it ran like that for many years until up in about 1978 when it was movie started to hit the big time, and they were finding more financial opportunities with motion pictures. So plans became to twin it, and I don't know the exact date, but in 1978 it was converted into a twin cinema, and it ran like that during the time that I had gone there with all my other friends. And the one thing that I never knew was the history about it. When it first closed for good, it was 1998, and myself and a bunch of people from the community of Washington got together to form this group called START, Save the Area's Regional Theater. I was elected vice president of that. The former mayor, Terry Houser, was elected the president, and we had a really dynamic group. We did it for 9 months. We got it back open. I booked my first ever movie on the fly called The Wedding Singer and The Apostle with Robert Duvall, a really good movie, and they did well. And we had a lot of fun, and then 9 months later, we were told to leave because this guy, Nelson Page, was hired to come in and run it with his little movie chain. And fittingly so, the last movie that we showed was Titanic. That was a great movie. Yeah. And you know, it was funny because after that, the guy turned these old storefronts, old soda fountain, into many theaters because you could change the film over quick. And it worked, but he wound up doing that without permits. And when he got caught up with him, he was going to be faced with fines. He left, like overnight he left. And the building sat abandoned for about 4.5 years. I wrote a small business plan. I was working for Regal Cinemas in New Rochelle State. My grandmother during this time found out about what was going on. I heard some bad things. I wrote a small business plan, and it got accepted for a $150,000 loan in New Jersey Small Business Development Center at Warren County Community College through Fulton Bank. I went through that money real quick. And I got it open on May 17, 2006 as a twin. I restored and renovated whatever I could to bring the building up to code, new projections, sound, seating, all that. Received a $5,000 grant from our local business district for the seating. And I ran it for 8 years, right up until 2014 at the end. I signed a really bad lease, a triple net lease, don't ever sign one. And you're responsible for everything. And I couldn't keep up with the roof, the old heating cooling system. I had, grand dreams of eventually buying it to restore it. I still like to do that. Right now, it's been abandoned since they evicted me 8 years ago, my old landlord. And I finally got involved one more time, my third and final time around. I do believe I'll be successful. It's not going to be easy. But essentially, what you, the gentleman had said before, it got included into this redevelopment plan. I have not been paying attention to local council meetings. They didn't want nothing to really, over the past several years, to talk about historic preservation. We have a very poor track record of that in North Town. So I started to do research and I looked at the exact redevelopment plan, and this is actually called the former theater district. Well, I know it's Sunday, but that really pissed me off. So I have this paper and I'm using all that information and photographs because I'm actually the real historian on this and a lot of the town, along with other good people. But essentially what I want to do is have it retracted from the redevelopment plan and through an amendment where this will not be the former theater district. And that will essentially, hopefully force the owner of the property to try to either donate to my nonprofit, which I've had one for 10 years, but I can't do anything with it because I do not own the property, a legit 501c3 called Washington Theater Preservation Society. But essentially the goal is to just negate those plans. Hopefully it will sell. I have the town council, the new town council is actually on my side. They want to try to save the building, but they need the information. I got a petition going around. I'm going to slowly build it up and then I'm going to have a presentation in September for the community to actually go ahead and present my cause to try to have the building saved ultimately. And if that happens, I do believe, just from the few months that I've been on this more consistently, that it will happen. I'll get the support and or money that is needed to at least get some kind of either a lease purchase or an outright buyout for the building. We can immediately start by fixing the roof and then slowly working from the front to the back and the offices. And I figure we do it right, we can stay afloat, pay over the overhead by keeping the front going. And the theater, since it turns 100 years old on January 24th in 2027, we should be able to, let's say it was next year, 2 solid years of raising money and finding grants and whatnot, we should be able to restore the theater back to its original grandeur as it was. It's got a 32-foot wide dome ceiling that peaks up 9 feet with the sunburst. Big chandelier would highlight the entire auditorium. That's all hidden with the drop ceiling. A lot of it is damaged from water leaks and all that, but everything can be restored, replicated, recasted, and put in place. I've got people already lined up that want to help and volunteer their time, just like it was when I opened up in 2006. Everybody seems to have a common cause for this theater. And I think it'll happen. So a 2.5 year window, 3 years tops, it'll be a big birthday present as it turns 100 years old. And I think for Washington, it's going to be the centerpiece of that whole revitalization. And I do feel like more and more as we get it going on in time, people are starting to finally realize just how important these places are for destination. Somebody tells you about redevelopment, ask them what that's going to look like 200 years from now, 100 years from now, how that's going to be financially acceptable. Well, last thing, I have to tell you something. Our town here in Washington was once known as the organ capital of the world. It's a real true story. On this property, is the man who created that factory, the Daniel F. Beatty Organ Factory, which is located behind here on Railroad Avenue, shipped worldwide over for pianos and organs and or pianos back from 1888 to 1920s. And we had like a whole bunch of different industries, but his was the worldwide famous one, shipping through mail ordering, just spending $400,000. In 1887, 1888, which is like unheard of back then. But because of that, he became very wealthy, had offices in New York and over in town, but his home was here. His home, and in this room underneath the loge, we have loges built into the theater, is a dirt room, and I found like part of that stone foundation of his house. I never knew about it until years later, but you can feel the energy of that man and the history of that town in this building. And the guy who told me the entire history of this building, Alvin Sloan, also was another very, not I want to say famous man, but his uncle was the CEO of General Motors. And that Sloan Kettering Hospital that you hear about was his uncle and his partner, I forgot his first name, George Kettering, but that's the guy who got the electric start on me. and they wanted to cure cancer, so that's how that little story developed, but Alvin used these offices up here to help create what is called the St. Cloud Amusement Corporation, and at that time, from 1935 to 1946, Washington Theater was home of 17 theaters that were all in Warren, Hunterdon, Sussex counties, and 3 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, thanks to somebody on their board who was involved in real estate. And I think this whole history of this particular theater really is just so unique that it emulates everything that you could ever want to be proud of in your town. And I'm looking forward to really just carrying that story that has captivated me and maybe become more of someone who really appreciates the heritage, not just of a theater, but really your town and the whole United States in general, and what we have and why we should appreciate that. And I'm hoping to really continue that. And if it all goes according to plan, I would love to have this group and any of the members from Preservation New Jersey with that name right here online, so we could do it inside that theater one day. Thank you.
Yeah, you have support from the New Jersey Arts Council. Have you partnered with Warren County arts organizations that could use this as a venue? Have you reached out to the Alton P. Sloan Foundation, because the Sloan Connect?
I looked into that. I have not done any of that yet, to be honest with you. I'm trying to focus on this step one to make sure I have a chance to do all that. But I will wind up reaching out to all those organizations. I just pray to God that it'll actually work out, and I could just come across with that message the way everybody else is trying as hard to help their own individual causes. But I think as long as you're persistent, make them feel guilty. Because people will understand human nature. We connect with things that are sentimental because we spend our lives in these buildings. It's a lot more than a structure. It's a very personal feeling. And they all create the aura from all of the people that have resided and visiting those places. So good luck.
We have Jennifer and Dr. Wall from the Samuel Paul House.
Great. Hi, everyone, and we're really happy to be here, and thanks to Preservation New Jersey for recognizing us and welcoming us here. Jennifer Maiden, Dr. Walter Quitt, we're co-chairs in the Paulsboro Historic Preservation Commission. And I'll start by letting you know that we're in South Jersey, we're in Gloucester County. I think that we're the only South Jersey group here today. So we're located on the Delaware River, right across from Philadelphia, kind of between Philadelphia and Atlantic City, if you're thinking about where we're at in New Jersey. Our historic commission is new. We've been around for about 1.5 years. It took us about 1.5 years prior to that to get it established. We're now an extension of our local our local town, the municipality. That's great in a lot of ways, but we'll be setting up a Friends of group as a nonprofit. That's one of our next steps. And working on the Paul House is one of our big priority initiatives. I'll also share that Paulsboro is absolutely a town with a lot of socioeconomic challenges. And that means for some people, the historic preservation is not top of mind when they're thinking about it. We see it as a really important component for preserving our culture and representing our community, as everyone here is thinking about. And for us also, it's a really important component of economic development. So the Paul House is a priority focus for us. It's right along the Mantua Creek, which leads right out into the Delaware River. And that's where the Native American encampment on the property also comes into play, because that waterway was a really important channel for many years before we even had the United States or any thoughts of it established. We have some other really great sites. I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Clinton and then we'll talk about the Paul House. But what I'll also say is that right in Paulsboro, we have the first federal land purchase. And Dr. Quaint gives some lectures sometimes talking about the birthplace of Homeland Security. So we have some great assets there, but none of them are being very well maintained. We have one, the lighthouse is very well maintained, but so we're at a starting point. We're starting at ground zero and scratch.
As you said, the lighthouse is on the National Register of Historic Places. There are actually 3 lighthouses, all operating in Paulsboro. And they began operation New Year's Eve, 1880. So they're old structures. Jen mentioned the first federal land purchase. Let me just say for a minute why it's amazing that this undisturbed Indian encampment is still there. Up until 1950, right along this encampment was busy barge docks, shipping vegetables from the Garden State to Philadelphia. Let's go back a few years. July 5th, 1776. Congress purchased 97 acres of land right near this site for the purpose of building a fort and blockading the Delaware River. Okay, the first federal land purchase, and as our congressman says, and we haven't stopped buying since. But shortly after the fort was built and the Chavot 3 was put in the river, 1,500 well-trained, well-equipped Royal Marines marched through Paulsboro, most likely right over the Indian encampment, on a way to capture the fort, which, by the way, they were unsuccessful. So, very historic town, fully developed industrial town, lots of refineries, pipelines, tanks, and 5 sites that are eligible for inclusion on the National Register: the lighthouse, the Paul House, the Indian encampment, the drawbridge, and a very, very old senior citizen center, which is another beautiful building. So we're grateful to be here, grateful for the recognition. We hope to be back with success stories. Thank you.
Okay, real quick, give them a little bit more context in the Paul House. So the original structure was built in
1795, and then the house that you see there, the front of that, 1850. Beautiful dwelling. It's just going to cost a lot to get it refurbished. We almost had it refurbished as part of the library when we discovered the Indian encampment. So the library addition went across the street onto the current library, and I tell you, we were so nervous about unearthing something else for groundbreaking in. We brought in a truckload of dirt. I said, "Do not put a shovel in the ground. With our luck, we're going to uncover dinosaurs." So we brought in soil from somewhere else, so we didn't break. Thank you.
We have one more advocate here who was not listed, but from the Joseph Murray House and Barn.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
I also have. You have to be short.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we're off script now.
Yeah.
Anything goes. There.
Good morning, thank you. On behalf of Horsey Park Conservancy, I'd like to thank Preservation New Jersey for your support in helping us preserve the Joseph Murray Farmhouse and Barn. The original farmhouse and barn were constructed in 1770 by Joseph Murray, who was a stonemason from Ireland. Joseph Murray purchased 40 acres from Thomas Stillwell, who acquired the property from the Throckmorton land grant. Today, the farmhouse and barn remain on the original foundations. Okay, it's actually a beautiful house, beautiful barn. There's an original working beehive stove inside. So if you ever get a chance to come on out, we're about 10 minutes away from here, please check it out. Joseph Murray was a patriot and a member of the local militia during the Revolutionary War. Joseph Murray was murdered on the property on June 7, 1780 by local loyalists. Preserving these historic structures and landmarks is a very important work. As an American history teacher for over 20 years, these landmarks and structures help to make events and people of the past come alive for today's students. Today's students will be the ones to continue democratic morals, values, and traditions. Frankly speaking, historical preservation needs more attention from the public and media. We need more people. We need more people like you. Please advocate. And more importantly, historic preservation needs to have a higher priority from our elected representatives. Allowing these historic structures to deteriorate and fall into disrepair ignores our past, which makes it more challenging to promote democracy, liberty, and freedom to our younger generations. The same exact things that Joseph Murray fought and died for during the Revolutionary War. The mission of Horsey Park Conservancy is to preserve and enrich the park as a nature preserve and educate the community about its historic and recreational resources. Because of the important work of Preservation New Jersey, we'll be able to raise awareness and achieve our goal of restoring these 2 historic structures. For more information regarding these structures and our mission, please visit horseypark.org. Thank you so much.
No, it's quite all right. Taylor's move, yeah.
Last but not least, save the best for last. I'm gonna read this because It's just easier. Okay. Good morning, thanks everybody. My name is Pat Olson. I'm from Reddington Township in Hunterdon County. I serve as the Historic Preservation Commission Chair, and I'm joined here with our Vice Chair, Alan Harwick, and our Secretary, Aaron Reddick. I want to thank Preservation New Jersey for the opportunity to bring the public attention an important structure tied to the history of the founding of the nation that needs the preservation's community help. The historic property is called Taylor's Mill. On July 4th, 2026, the United States of America will celebrate its semi-quincentennial. The 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence will be celebrated across the nation with particular emphasis on the role played by the patriots of the 13 original colonies. New Jersey's patriots played a significant role in the fight for independence, and support for Washington's troops can be traced to the patriots in Reddington Township. Taylor's Mill is located in Reddington Township in the northeastern section of Hunterdon County. Taylor's Mill is one of the last surviving pre-revolutionary mills. The mill played a role in the American Revolution as a grain supplier of Washington's army. It was owned and run by state militia and Continental Army officer Colonel John Taylor. The listing on the National Register, qualifies under criteria A, B, and C. The mill complex is significant in early settlement patterns, industry, commerce, military, and architecture. Significance under architecture is found in the building as recorded of the 18th century mill construction in masonry, in which few examples remain. During a snowstorm early 2022, a portion of Taylor's Mill ruin was damaged when the truck hit the corner of the structure, knocking out stones. The accident only accelerated the long overdue stabilization plan needed to prevent further deterioration of the mill ruins. The damage done to the mill during the snowstorm brought the issue of deferred maintenance to the structure and many other historical structures owned by municipalities across the state. On the heels of the bicentennial, many towns embraced our history by creating historic districts and placing them on the state and national register of historic places. And during this time, municipalities began to acquire historic structures. Some became house museums, some were used for community and educational endeavors. Unfortunately, for many, their earlier visions were never realized. As years progressed, many of these former visionary structures ended up receiving deferred maintenance as the interest in these historic places fell to the wayside as more pressing issues occupied the attention of the governing bodies. The vision for Taylor's Mill Historic District was never realized. The Miller's House, which was privately owned, was lost over time to demolition and neglect. The mill was never restored and has been the victim of deferred maintenance since it was acquired almost 30 years ago. Budget tightening year over year kept placing the Taylor Mill ruins at the bottom of the list for scarce township resources. Last year's accident brought front and center the need for emergency repairs and the creation of a stabilization plan for the mill ruins following Secretary standards for historic properties for this important historic site. The listing of Taylor's Mill as one of the 10 most endangered places in New Jersey shines a light on one of the early structures remaining in our rural areas that witness, support, and the birth of this country. Thank you.
Before you read yours, we do have the Community Baptist of St. John who'd like to share, and then we'll have one more session of remarks.
This is a little bit ad lib because we didn't know what to do with this. I'm Sister Linda Claire from the community of St. John Baptist, and this is my Farley, who's on our development board to preserve the buildings. Our order of Episcopal nuns was founded in England, and some sisters first came to this country in 1874, and they originally worked in New York City. And then in the early 1900s, they came out to Redding, New Jersey. The first building was brick building, which you can sort of see over the trees in the back there. And that was built as an orphanage. And it was run as an orphanage until the 1940s, when some social services came in and took over that kind of ministry in the state. In the 1960s, we turned it into a retreat house, and now it's a retreat house where groups from all over the East Coast can come and stay there. We have 27 rooms, and they often come for a week, weekends, things like that. And they're not all religious groups. We have AA groups, we have people who help homeless people, who are in recovery, and so it's a variety of things. The convent itself was built in 1918. And we have been trying to restore these buildings because we're the only Episcopal monastery in the state of New Jersey. We had gotten grants to start the preservation process from both Morris County and the state until the New Jersey Supreme Court decision, which somebody referenced before. So that whole source of income has dried up. Before that happened, we were able to restore the roof on the convent with the idea that start in the top and work down. Right now, the structure of the building, the outside needs preservation, plus the retreat house, which is a brick building, not stucco, needs a new roof. So that's where our fundraising efforts are focused right now. Unlike the other sites that were mentioned here, we're not up for development, we're not up for demolition, we're a working organization, we have a very active ministry. At minimum 2,000 to 5,000 people come through our property every year. We do a lot of work in the community, parish churches. Our idea is to stay open and be able to provide our services to the community, to the state, to other states, and everybody who needs a spiritual place to come to.
As Susan said, my name is Miles, and I've been working with the nuns for over 20 years. And in the early 2000s, they had a serious problem when the heat system failed. And the nuns had to spend, several days with heaters and other things and keep their ministries down. I came up with the idea that we were going to think about having a capital campaign, and that was in 2008. And if you think back, 2008 was not the best time to start a campaign.
That's right.
But what happened is I started talking to the sisters about the need to do capital. And I had been involved with development over the years, and I realized that having a capital campaign and reserve fund would keep us going. So we talked and we talked, and the sister said, oh, we don't have the constituents. And they said, yes, you do, you don't realize it. And when we did the feasibility study for the state of New Jersey, Dave Sullivan and I started to add up all the people that come to the property. And in that grant that we got, we had 5,000 people documented had come through the buildings over the course of 1 year. And so we decided, they prayerfully made that decision that they would have a capital campaign. Capital campaign was very successful. We were able to raise almost $3.5 million. The list of what has to be done is excessive, much more than the $3.5 million for buildings that have, real, life-saving, repairs that have to be done. But one of the things that we realized in our prayer life, and also in just thinking about what our ministries were, is that we looked upon the concept of sacred spaces. And physically, I wish I could give you a film of what happens when you leave the highway and you start driving up to the 96 acres that they have. And you get to the top and you realize you have this sense of peacefulness. And the people that come through, they have that, and they keep coming back. And so we said that, we have to preserve the sacred spaces.
But the sacred space is something that we all need. Because when we keep a lot of noise between our ears, we can't think and we can't reflect. And so what happens when people come up there, there's something like flattered, you know, there's the beauty of the property that is just, you know, beyond description. And so we just know that we have a calling from God to keep these sacred spaces alive. And we certainly thank the Preservation of New Jersey for helping us to kind of get that message out. That, you know, we're in great danger of losing sacred spaces. Thanks.
We have two of our sites who are not able to be with us today, and they have words for us to share. So I have Ricky who's going to read those in.
Yeah.
And then we'll conclude our program. So
Before we conclude, and before I even read these, I'm gonna say we are at the 10 most, but we have 2 MVPs. One's right here and the other's right here. So a big hand. That's okay. So I want to make sure you all know that we have events coming up, and I'll get to that at the end, but I'm gonna read right now from the Eagles Tavern. Margaret Michio, Trenton resident for over 40 years. We have it up, there it is. You saw that on 10 most earlier. So this is her words that she provided for our Preservation New Jersey event today, that she would like to reflect on this tavern. She's lived there for 40 years. She's witnessed its ups and downs firsthand. Frankly, it has never looked so damaged and endangered as it does today. I want to emphasize the fact that this pre-revolutionary tavern is owned by the city of Trenton. Mayor Gachora, I can tell you, I know you, and we will send this to you, which is the state capital and county seat, Mercer County. The neglect of this historic landmark by the city that owns it is dramatic, ongoing, and a slap in the face to all private property owners and taxpayers in Trenton who are held to a completely different standard. Just a few examples of the neglect. She gave us that the porch was hit by a car several years ago. The city made a slapdash repair that remains there today. This caused the porch to pull away from the building a little bit more every year until now it looks like it collapsed into the street after the next heavy rain. Last year, the city issued an RFP for the redevelopment of the Eagle Tavern and built a sign on the corner using the stump of a weed tree that held up the sign. The sign is still there, but now it's blank, still held up by the stump of a weed that should have been simply removed years ago. This is there's an abandoned sofa in the fenced yard. Too many in Trenton have that. Litter everywhere, including on the collapsing porch roof, and weeds climbing up the walls, now reaching up to the chimney. In closing, she's telling us, this is again Margaret Michio, I will say Trenton would be a better place instantly if only our many government tenants simply took care of their own properties located here. And she thanks Preservation New Jersey for the attention to the Old Eagle Tavern in Trenton. Well, for all of you that have been thanking Preservation New Jersey, I want to make sure you hear your welcome from this board. Okay. Now this one is from the Green West Orange Board. That's an organization in the municipality. Little smaller font, so don't mind me quoting this. We weren't sure what P&J would think about the Hecker Carriage House, or if it would qualify for the 10 most endangered list. It's only a carriage house, modest outbuilding on the grounds of a once beautiful Victorian mansion that burned down. Historian Robert Gooder, who recommended the carriage house for the National Register back in 1992, also once wondered if it was eligible for that high honor without its accompanying mansion. Okay, so here it is, it's been on the list. But this modest structure tells us so much about the early days of our township. Wealthy businessmen and powerful politicians came to the ridge of the Watchung Mountains for the natural springs and views of Manhattan. It is what's left of a disappearing chapter in the history of West Orange, and I'd add of New Jersey. It also says something about the state of historic preservation in our township and in the Oranges in general. West Orange has not designated a local historic district since 1987. In Orange, a town official, announced last month a plan to demolish Orange Memorial Hospital, listed on the National Register. Our neighboring town of East Orange still has not created a historic preservation commission to protect its architectural treasures. Today, the carriage house is not in good shape structurally, but it is still standing, which tells you all you need to know about the architect Henry Hudson Holly, who designed it, and the stonemasons who laid the foundation with so much care. Thank you to Preservation New Jersey for seeing the beauty and importance of this humble carriage house. This nomination means so much to the preservationists in the Oranges who work tirelessly to protect its history, often in the headwind of developers and elected officials concerned only with the short-term gains. Okay.
Well, this concludes our program this morning. Again, we thank everyone for coming out and just, what's next. So this year, and under sort of myself and our new board and board members that are coming, we're going to take the 2023 10 most, and we're going to work with you individually for the next year on, promoting your sites, getting your message out there, and, any support and assistance that you need from us, we are going to ensure that you have it. So you will be seeing messages and some phone calls from myself and our office staff. And we look forward to working with all of you. Again, thank you for your kind words. Thank you for joining us. Follow us, Preservation New Jersey. We're on Insta, Twitter, all the school kids, social media, preservationnewjersey.org. Visit our website. We have tons of events and programs for the remaining of the year. We have some flyers in the back as well. And I forgot, since you've met most of our board members that are here today, Mark Nunna said it in the back. He's also part of our board. Thank you. Oh, yes, and we have lunch for you. I forgot. So as you're walking out, if there's sandwiches, water, chips, please take one. Enjoy the rest of the park. And yeah, questions are, yeah.
Were you going to print publish the narratives that we heard?
Yes, so all of the narratives that you heard, you'll see them on social media. They will be posted and live on our website. And then as updates to your site, happen, we will also include that on our website. And it will be published in several local papers as well. So, because that already has gone out on Friday.
Can I just say something? Don't work. Because I put one on a long time ago. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. However, within the last month, I got a phone call about it because they got my phone number from the website. So those postings on your website do work, because people do search it. And eventually, even though it's years later, somebody contacted me, that's how they got in contact with me.
Excellent. So that means it works. So thank you. Thank you again, everybody.
We shut down. Can we get one more photo, because if we can get the Paul house behind us.
The whole house is there in half, I think, no?
No.
I think it's fine. I don't think I pressed it hard enough.
When
So
he
we're
was
good.
reading, yes, not when we were up there.
I guess it's happening here. You're very willing to. Stop on the camera. Another thing that there. There'll be one out of the face that. Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to mind to do it. So turn it into what it does.
Thanks. It's actually, an industrial commission grant from Sayreville in 1920. Yeah. And then my other partner in crime went to the bathroom. She's got the Sayer Future Brick one. Oh, yeah, he's got it on. I need his. Yeah, might as well take the clothes off. Come on.
We have a real.
That's the one for Sayer Fisher Brick.
Those are in.
Yeah, the Sayer Future bricks are found in everything from like the base of the Statue of Liberty to the Brooklyn Bridge to even the Empire State Building and Europe. Yeah, so they were really big back in like the 1800s, early 1900s. I love your shirt. Very cute. Did you go all the way up to the top? There's a, I don't know what kind of nest it is, maybe like a falcon or a hawk nest?
It's an osprey.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I hope you join us in Cleveland. We're doing our annual meeting there. This is 15th. So Brianne is the chair of the HPC. She was in class with me 5 years ago. And she came last year in my annual meeting. We have the most awesome day planned for Freehold. It's gonna be the 15th, Saturday at 1:30. Okay. And we're meeting at the American Hotel. You can talk as much as you want about Sarah.
Yeah.
Next week I'm in some of them.
We have that.
Good. Join.
Oh, that's funny. I got one in my bag.
Aren't you Marty?
No,
Middlesex. We have, Martin is the person I'm talking about, but we're starting where we get county commissioners to come to that. So, that's what we're doing in Monmouth and North Seven.
Yeah, I know Middlesex County just had their history day.
I've done a lot with Plainsboro, you can too. I used to
Okay.
be a reporter in West Windsor, Plainsboro, but that's South County. I don't have contacts in Sayreville Market. But you tell me who you want to meet with and stuff, we set that up at hers.
All right, wonderful.
That would be.
Yeah, I'll definitely, this is the president.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
President.
Try to join Somerville next week, so we can
Yes.
talk more, because Paul will be there.
All right.
Yeah, Paul's, so now, Paul is not only the PNJ president now, he's the president, he's the New Jersey Conference of Mayors president. He's got the power right there.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. Not that I won't do it on my own if I have.
And you said this is on, I'm sorry,
Okay,
the one in Freehold.
this is in Freehold on, we're having a virtual meeting on the 13th.
Okay.
And then on the 15th is the annual meeting. Virtual is for stage lights. Yes, it'll be on the website, but I'm giving that one out to people who love the same program.
It's Saturday, right?
It's Saturday, was American Hotel. The historic American business. An annual meeting.
Oh, isn't that on me? I used to bartend slash serve there when I at the hotel. I used to have a restaurant many years ago. What? I'm getting older every day.
That's good. Annual meeting is important because we recognize people that have participated.
Say it again. Nope. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I think? I think I should.
Okay, picture.
This Frank's the picture guy.
Your alarm is, yeah.
They don't let us out that. Come on. Okay, let's go.
Okay, great.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Okay, yes, yes. Oh, yeah, that was me. Yeah. We were just talking about. I have to tell you. And, whatever, his boss got back. He pushed the order up. And talking about that in far away. We really should be fine. We have a place that would take the top part, it's the lower part. So we have a place that would take. Trying to find the money. Then we could take it down. Trying to find the money. Money also. That I'm working on. They said no, they worried about it.
So.
Thank you. Thanks for making the connection, I appreciate it.